Welcome into Locked On 76ers. Keith Pompey, Marc Farzetta with you. Guerschon Yabusele addresses some media members and talks about his plans for the future. Once you hear someone talk about how they're excited for free agency, it pretty much means they're not going to be back. We'll break it all down on this edition of Locked On 76ers podcast.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We do thank you kindly for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This particular episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use promo code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Keith Pompey, been covering the 76ers for a better part of a decade. Marc Farzetta, I've been talking Philly sports for almost 20 years now. Keith, I got old fast. That's how it works, unfortunately. Listen, I woke up this morning to this Hoops Hype interview of Guerschon Yabusele. Now, let me just set the table here. Of all the games I watched last year, and I know you were there for all of them, the end of the season was not exactly what most basketball fans would call, Keith, a good time. But it turns into a scouting mission. If you're a fan, if you're a media member, who could help you going forward? And we've talked about Quentin Grimes, could certainly run a second unit off the bench. We talked about Adem Bona as potentially being a backup center, number one off the bench to Joel Embiid, or a number three. And we've talked about very little Guerschon Yabusele, but he was one of the guys towards the end of the year when they were full-blown tank mode, Keith, that I thought, this is a guy that could help you down the stretch. He's got a phenomenal story, but in this interview, talked about playing time and did talk about free agency. He'd like to come back to Philly, but understands that could be very difficult considering where the Sixers are fiscally, if you want to put it that way. Keith, what do you make of the whole Yabu ordeal?
I mean, I think he's keeping it real. Like, he knows, like, when we're talking about where they are fiscally, I mean, we talk about they have $149.1 million, tied up in the four players, right? And the cap is 154, is projected that way, and Yabusele is going to be a free agent. It's not like the Sixers have his bird rights, right? Because he was on the minimum deal. He's going to demand more money than probably the Sixers are willing to give him. And if I'm Yabu, it's one of those things. What do you make of it? You make of it, this guy is 29 years old. This is probably his only opportunity to get paid. He wants to get playing time and get paid. There are certain teams out there that have a lot more cap space than the 76ers. So, when he comes out and he says, I'm looking for an opportunity to get playing time, I have to pay close attention to what the 76ers are going to do via trades and the draft. Well, and I'm looking forward to free agency. So when he says that, it's like, you know what, y'all? I love my time in Philadelphia, but don't hate me if I take the money. And I'm probably going to take the money because the 76ers can't offer it. But I want to thank the fans, and I love them and everything like that. But if I get paid more money than what the Sixers are willing to offer me, I'm going to have to take it. That's what this sounds like that is probably going to happen, on July the 1st, July the 2nd.
Keith, I don't speak much French, but Guerschon's basically saying je t'aime Philadelphia fan base, so he likes the Philadelphia fan base, but je t'aime more money. This is kind of what it comes down to. Look, this is a guy who was out of the NBA for, 6 years? Yeah. This is a guy that was playing in France, played in the Olympics, had a great display in the Olympics, comes back to the NBA. You hear it from athletes every so often. The most famous example, I think, in Philadelphia is Jason Worth with the Phillies years ago. That was like, I've played my whole life for this season. He's played his whole life to have a season like he had for the Sixers, to prove that he's not just a NBA talent, but like a legit guy to either come off the bench or start on a bad team, similar to the Sixers at the end of last year. He's proven that he can shoot from the outside, he can rebound, he can play aggressive, he can slash to the lane for a man of his size. I mean, Dancing Bear is a phenomenal nickname for this guy. I think he has played his whole life for this season that he just had for the Sixers. I don't see him coming back. If you had to put the odds on it, what percentage rather would you give Guerschon Yabusele as a percentage wise that he returns to the Sixers?
It's going to be low. I mean, I would say maybe. I mean, and this is kind of high to me, saying 40%, and I still think that's extremely high. Maybe 30%. I mean, it just depends on what other teams do, but even that, like, I don't see it. I don't see it. And here's part of the reason why I don't see it, Mark. Like, here's the thing. A lot of people forget he had a buyout. He made $2.1 million, a little shy of $2.1 million last season with the Sixers. His buyout with the Real Madrid team was $2.5 million. That's how much his contract was. The Sixers was only able to pay $850,000. So that left around $1.6 million that he had to work out with the team in order for him to leave. So when you factor that in, this guy lost money to come to the NBA to prove that he could play again in this league, to prove. So he basically gambled on himself. So when you factor that in, you say to yourself, you're like, well, this guy lost money to come over. I'm pretty sure he's looking for a huge payday. And again, we're talking about a guy who has children, a guy who's 29 years old, a guy who, like, we don't know how long he's going to be in this league. You got to take care of yourself right about now. And I think that's what he's doing. I mean, he's coming off a career year too, where he averaged 11 points. He shot 38% from three. And when he played for the Boston Celtics, he was a bench warmer. He rarely played. So, yeah, I mean, it's all about pay me, bro. And, like, let's face it, he can say all the nice things he wants about the 76ers, but he was the only one in that. He was in that locker room. Does he really believe that they can win? Does he really believe that Joel Embiid is going to come back 100% or that Paul George isn't shot? So he has knowledge of that locker room to whereas he might say, you know what, they're going to struggle this year. Let me go somewhere else where I can get paid.
He also hinted at watching the draft, which is exactly what we were talking about, like following the draft. We were talking about this yesterday, but more in regards to Joel Embiid and Paul George, what it'll be about, how telling it'll be for the Sixers' near future, what they do in this draft. And Guerschon Yabusele is doing the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. He's paying attention. Like, you know what? Let's see. And so here's something else he's paying attention to, too. So the cap hold for the third pick is around anywhere, I think it's between $10 to $12 million for the third pick. So what that is, we're talking about then that's less money that they can offer, right? And I think what you can do is after they do like the 120% of the contract, whatever, the rookie, if they get the third pick, he's going to make 11 mil, right? But here's the deal. Are the Sixers going to trade down? If they trade down, then that's probably more money that they can give Yabu, right? Also, the thing is, and if they trade down, like, well, what are they trading down for? Are they going to have 2 first-round picks and is one of them going to be a power forward? Well, what are you going to do with Kelly Oubre? If Kelly Oubre decides he wants to opt in before, are you going to trade him and somebody else and bring in someone else? Like, there's a lot of things that he has to pay close attention to during this draft and in the early parts of free agency. And the problem is the longer you wait, money is going to dry up. So, we all, and the Sixers can talk to him, can initially start talking to him the day after the NBA finals are over, right? But in this era, we know that there's some tampering going on. So there's going to be teams from other teams who are going to talk to Yabu. And next thing you know, it could be at 6:01 or 6:03 on June 30th. We find out Yabu is signing with another team. Now, the reason being you do that so early is because you're fearful that the longer you wait, that all the money is going to dry up. So you go ahead and do it. So I'm not saying someone's tampering, but I would be surprised if this guy holds out and waits a long time for the Sixers to decide what they want to do.
In the NBA, if you ain't tampering, you ain't trying. That's basically what it comes down to. Just give me those numbers one more time on the salary cap. What was that? With how much room?
So right now, the 76ers have $149.1 million tied up to four players. And those four players are Joel, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and Jarrett McCain. The projected salary cap is $154.6 million, right? But then, you got the first apron, you got the second apron, and that's where it like gets really, really, really sticky, because I believe the second apron is $207 million. So, when we factor in, like we talk about Kelly Oubre, he has an option of 8.3. Quentin Grimes is a guy who could get anywhere from $15 to $20 million, right? The first round pick will probably get 11.1 mil. Well, there's not a lot of money. So for Yabu, like he can get a mid-level taxpayer exception for 5.7. But why would you settle for that when you could go to Brooklyn or Utah? And then I'm not saying I want to go to Brooklyn or Utah, but believe me, if I'm gonna get double the money to go to Brooklyn or Utah than go to Philly and hang out in Philly, I think I'll live there for 7 months out of the year, knowing that I got $5 to $7 million extra, if that makes sense to you.
Oh yeah, I'm just those numbers, man. That's like if I gave my 6-year-old a $100 bill at the toy store and said, "All right, now you can buy whatever toys you want, but with this money, you're going to have to, buy your own food later," or something like that. Guess what? She ain't eating. She's just going to spend it all. She's not going to spend wisely, Keith, is what I'm saying. But this isn't my 5-6-year-old. This is Daryl Morey and the 76ers running this money. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Not surprising, unfortunately, but amazing. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about that front office, because somebody has left the 76ers to go to the Atlanta Hawks. Somebody's in charge of other numbers with the 76ers, at least taking over those responsibilities with the Atlanta Hawks. We'll talk about that when we return. This is Locked On 76ers podcast. Oh, boy, the NBA Finals well underway. So now I got to tell you about DoorDash, bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA Finals. It's called They Swish, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order of $20 or more and use the promo code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid noon to midnight the day after the game. Terms apply. Who doesn't want to treat themselves to some delicious, succulent Wingstop? If you ever looked at your delivery fees and thought, there's a better way to do this, this is the better way to do this. So once again, the way you play is sign up for a Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. And all you got to do is use promo code WINGSTOP50. That's Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply. Marc Farzetta, Keith Pompey. So I see this name, Peter Dinwiddie was in the 76ers front office. I found it very interesting that he went to the Atlanta Hawks, which, as we were talking about before, they had interest in Elton Brand not too long ago as a general manager interview. He ended up not taking that job. But now, I don't want to call it poaching, but they have taken someone from the 76ers front office. Any fallout of significance here, Keith?
Peter Dinwiddie is a first of all, he's an extremely nice guy. He's a smart guy. The thing about him is when he came here, it was, it was one of those things. Everybody talked about how his relationships around the league. They also talked about how he was, a master, so to speak, of knowing everything that happens with the salary cap. The first 8 and separate apron, But, like in regards to the fallout, we got to figure out like, how is it going to be? You know what I mean? Because, it's one of those things where, are they going to replace him? Or is it one of those things where, because he was hired before Daryl Morey. Now, Daryl Morey is also an analytics guy and everything like that. So it just depends. Or if they do replace him, are they going to get someone with different strengths? But I'm here to tell you is like, he's a guy that came here and, he was hired by Elton and them or by Josh Harris and them before Daryl Morey came on board. So to him, it's just, one of those things where he never really, I felt like, got to thrive and do the things that he would have done just because Morey came in above him. You had him and Elton. I felt like beforehand it was just going to be him and Elton working hand in hand, but it was the three of them. So, maybe he'll get more freedom where he is, or have like a higher profile. But, he was a good executive, a guy who was extremely well respected and still is around the NBA.
What would I'm always curious now. A lot of times a front office member leaves and you look at it and you go, all right, well, how did they bounce back from this? How vital was this person to operations? But the Sixers, I have so little confidence right now, Keith, in the front office that I'm like, okay, yeah, more turnover, the better. Maybe somebody else has got the bright idea. Now, that's not to say that I don't mean that as a knock against Peter Dinwiddie or anything like that. I just mean the overall operations. So maybe if another voice comes in, that voice might have a bigger impact on things down the line.
Could, but you know what? I feel like right now it could. But at the same time, I feel like when you have a guy like Daryl Morey and Elton Brand, so to speak, and especially Daryl's been in the league for so long, you'll say maybe, but, they got, what's the guy? Neil O'Shea is a consultant, who used to be, an executive with the Portland Trailblazers. But at the same time, so to me, yes and no, meaning like, yeah, a guy can come in with different perspective on things, but at the same time, I feel like the 76ers are kind of like stuck in what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, yes. You got Daryl Morey, you got EB, and I just feel like they're stuck. But Dinwiddie, I'm telling you, man, he was a great guy. Like, he was third in command before he came to Philly with the Pacers. He was like, he's from Indianapolis, so he was a lifer there. And it's funny, he started in, like, I believe in their the ticket office, right? Selling tickets. Wow. And then all of a sudden he gradually worked his way up. And, so he's going to have a similar role to what he did with the Sixers, but he's really good with strategy and analytics. So he's like an analytics guy. So yeah, he's he's going to be a welcome addition. And again, like I keep saying, he was a great dude, very well respected and well liked around the NBA.
Watch him be the next guy that leaves, like we were talking about with this NBA Finals. A guy behind the scenes that not many people know, but all of a sudden he starts having a bigger impact in another organization, and we'll all facepalm saying, you had him here and all that. Now, bottom line is, as I mentioned, I don't have a lot of confidence in what's going on right now with the Sixers in terms of building and winning in the next year or two or anything like that. So I think there's going to be a lot of turnover when it comes to that 76ers front office in the not too distant future, unfortunately. That's certainly not what I'm rooting for. But the other aspect of this is if you are not the GM, if you're not the president of basketball operations, I think you're looking at the situation you're in right now and you're saying there's room to grow elsewhere with a franchise that could be on the cusp of turning things around a lot quicker than the 76ers could. So I could understand why people might want to get out. That's why I was a little surprised that Elton Brand did decide, in fact, to stay put.
Yeah, but also, I mean, it's a decision, but also, and this ain't a knock on Elton, but typically a lot of times when you hear of guys who say, I am taking my name out of consideration, that typically comes when you realize that the other person may get the job.
Right. You ain't going to get it.
Yeah, you ain't going to get it, right?
It's not that I didn't get it. Yeah. I didn't want it.
Yeah,
I didn't want it. I like where I am.
And I love EB, so that's not a knock at him. But sometimes, that those are things that happen. And then also, let's get it real, and let's get it 100. Let's keep it 100. Like a lot of times when your name is a candidate for a job too, you could be comfortable in the position that you are right now. But when your name becomes a candidate, depending on how much they care about you, you can get some more. You can get a raise. You can get some more bread out of the deal. Like, people do that a lot. You know what I mean? They apply for jobs knowing they don't want it, and they go to but you got to be careful. But then they go to their current employer and say, hey, I got an offer here. Are you going to give me more money? But I think in this instance, it could have been that, but it also typically you don't withdraw from jobs, from consideration if you're going to get it. You only do it when you know you're not going to get it.
Mm-hmm. By the way, we talked about this last week, but we didn't come back to it. Jay Wright, apparently, thanks, but no thanks. New York Knicks, not interested. Nobody's surprised. Even me. I'm not surprised by it.
Yeah. I mean, come on, man. Like, you don't want that job. I mean, it's like, can you imagine Jay Wright? So Jay Wright is like saying, well, first of all, I got to deal with these NBA personalities, right? Guys who don't want to be coached up.
Sure.
This and that. Yes, I am was the coach of 3 of them, the Nova Knicks, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, and Mikal Bridges. And Jalen is the star of the team. But y'all got rid of a dude who made you relevant, right? And now it's like, you want me to come in there? Huh?
And Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, and Tom Thibodeau. And now you want me to come to New York and like saying, hey, it's championship or bust, right? When I got one dude who was giving it all, probably getting it seemed like Brunson was getting shot up every game or doing something was happening. Like he would go to the locker room late in the third quarter, then come back. Then you have another dude hobbling with a bad leg, and then he messed up his hand. We're talking about Karl Anthony Towns, and they gave all they could, and you fired this coach, and you want me to come here and do this? Nah, I'm cool. I'm good. I'm good.
I am still not ruling it out for down the line. I'm gonna die on this hill, Keith.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. I think it's different, and I think when we talked about it before, you talked about the difference between like the NIL deal and paying college players and the NBA. Yeah. The NBA is rough, man, because when you think of it, like, okay, prime example. Let's just say Nick Nurse and Joel Embiid. I'm just giving them as an example. If they struggle next year, the 76ers struggle, and they need to make a move, and we'll look at it and we'll say, okay, Joel Embiid didn't perform to his expectations. Well, what they're going to say is they're going to be like, well, Joel Embiid because that's when the contract is really going to kick in. He has 3 years left for $193 million, where Nick Nurse has 2 years remaining on, it will be 17 million, right? Well, Nick, nice knowing you, bro. You got to go because you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like the coach is like the fall guy. And so with that being said, the player has power. They have a lot of power on what's being said and what's done. So, it's kind of like in the college game, we talked about this also. No matter who came out of Villanova, Kyle Lowry, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, all these guys, the face of Villanova was Jay Wright.
Absolutely.
It was Jay Wright. He was the guy. And you go to the NBA, the face of the league, the face of the team is going to be Jalen Brunson. And then Karl Anthony Towns. And if you get rid of them, it's going to be someone else, not Jay Wright. So it's just different, man. It's a different thing. And he can make millions of dollars working on TV, and he doesn't have to worry about the stress of having to win games.
So all I heard during that whole thing was Jay Wright coaches the Sixers in 2 years. Thanks, Keith. I appreciate that. We'll run with that. No.
Well, you better hope Joel and Paul George and all the other ones are going, because it's going to get just as stressful.
I can just see him in. Let's see. Let's really start it. Okay, Jay Wright coaches 6 years. John Calipari comes in and coaches Tyrese Maxey in a couple of years. Let's just keep stirring that pot. Let's throw that against the wall. 'Tis the season. You know what I mean?
The funny thing, I'll make you laugh real quick about Calipari. Did you see him on before the game of game 2? Like, so
I did not.
You didn't see him. So he goes up to SGA after SGA is warming up. And everyone else has on like blue and this and that. And Calipari has on this like Arkansas red jacket, right? And I'm like, and like you can see Shea giving him a look, and they all start to chuckle and laugh, right? And it's like, this guy is always recruiting, like always representing. You know what I mean? And before he always had the blue on, no matter where he was at, he had on blue. And now he has on this red jacket. Like, again, the face of college basketball program. And that's what it is. So it's just crazy. Like, dude, put on blue for your guy. Like, you're there to root him on. Put it on.
When we come back, we're going to talk about another change. Yes, it has nothing to do with the people with the Sixers right now, but the people literally looking to build the arena the Sixers and Flyers will be playing in down the line. That's when we return. This is Locked On 76ers podcast on the Locked On 76ers YouTube channel. Back after this. I've told you guys before about Monarch Money, and hopefully you guys are taking advantage of all Monarch Money has to offer. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did the money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track of all that money. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. Oh, no. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. For instance, let's say you just got married, or maybe you and your partner moved in with one another. Got to manage the finances. This makes that so easy and without all the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use promo code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com. That's monarchmoney.com and promo code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Once again, Locked On NBA for your promo code at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Monarchmoney.com, promo code Locked On NBA. Keith, apparently an architect has been selected to build the new Sixers arena. Now, as I said in the first show we did together last week, I would have absolutely would have loved a downtown arena. I know you've been around the country. I've been around the country. Downtown arenas are awesome. And what I like about them the most is that many businesses and business owners make money off the deal. It's not just a couple of people in South Philly on their own little island of stadiums. It's a lot of people downtown. So I love that idea. I would have loved to see the downtown arena. They had plenty of years to figure it out in terms of the traffic situation and all that. But they have now, as we know, decided to stay in South Philadelphia. And they have tabbed their new architect for the arena itself. Anything you could tell us, shed light on this situation, plans, anything like that?
I mean, I think the plans are basically the same. You know, it's funny. Before they announced that, I guess the pronunciation is Populous, you know, the firm that they hired. Before they did that, it was like kind of like crickets since in January, when they made that announcement that they were, forming a partnership with the Flyers. But the plan still is to open in 2031. And it's crazy because, they came out and they had a statement, and they talked about it. But the thing about this Populous place, people rave over them because they employ 1,500 people across 4, continents. Is responsible for various stadiums and venues ranging from the Sphere in Las Vegas. Now, I don't know if you've been there, but that's like a beautiful building, the Sphere in Vegas, right?
Not yet.
And then they got they have an arena in Saudi Arabia. So, like, when you go overseas, I'm telling you, these arenas are like next level, right? Mm-hmm. But to me personally, and this is not a shot or knock on the 76ers, but I don't care until it's built, right? Like, seriously, like when 2031 comes, or like late in 2030, and you say, hey, we want you guys to get a tour of the arena to see how it is. Okay, then that's when my eyes are going to light up. Right now, when we talk about things like this, is great. But when you talk about it like X amount of years out, it's kind of like, I'm just a here and now type of guy. Sure. And just wake me up in 2031, wherever I'm at, just say, okay, if I'm still covering the team still or not, just say, hey, Keith, we want you to get a tour. And then I'll be like, okay, this is good or it's trash. Like,
right. Right. Yeah. Tell me where the Locked On studio is. Thank you very much. No.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm similar, but I do look forward to seeing plans come out, renderings. And look, we all know the deal. You've seen it for other stadiums. Renderings come out, and then the stadium opens, and it's like, this isn't. It's like the book versus the movie. These aren't the same thing. You know what I mean? I look forward to us getting closer to that day. Keith, you and I will be back at it tomorrow for another edition of Locked On 76ers podcast. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to Locked On 76ers. Make sure you guys are following Keith Pompey on all social media platforms and reading his articles there on Inquirer.com. As for me, guess what? I got a Eagles show coming up here on Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. It's probably out already by the time this hits. So check out and like and subscribe to Locked On Eagles. Check out and like and subscribe to Locked On 76ers, obviously, and like and subscribe to Locked On Phillies, where I'll be bringing in your postcast after, weather permitting, a Phillies game tonight, game 2 against the Chicago Cubs. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Also, thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On NBA Big Board Show, where NBA draft expert Rafael Barlow reacts to every workout, interview, and rumor leading up to the NBA draft coming up on the 25th. Find out of this month. Find out about the NBA on Locked On NBA Big Board on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. That's once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Back with you guys tomorrow for another edition of Locked On 76ers.